Today, the release date of this video, is my birthday. And wouldn't you know it, I share a birthday with the one and only Robert De Niro. What a buddy, we're birthday bros. So in honor of our shared birthday, I'm talking about 3 crime thrillers of his from the 90s, the decade in which I was born. And the names of those 3 films are Sleepers, A Bronx Tale, and Cape Fear. Off of Stoobies. Sleepers. This is a 1996 film. It is based off of a book, which is supposedly a true story, though I don't think that's actually the case. But it doesn't matter because the movie's great. The basic premise is it follows this group of boys in 60s New York who are a bunch of hooligans, but they're mostly harmless, except for one day when they do some harm and then they have to deal with the consequences of their actions. And I kind of thought that was going to be just like the beginning of the movie and then we jump ahead, but no, it was about half of the movie was them as like 14-year-olds. But I think that was the right choice. It really helped set the tone and really drill in the severity of the bad stuff that happened to them after they did something bad, because the punishment way outweighed the crime. And so roughly halfway through the movie, it then jumps forward 15 years and they deal with more of the fallout of what happened to them as children, but in a different way. And it's really, really good. The story's really interesting and engaging. The performances are really solid. It's really the emotions of the movie are what worked so well. You get sucked into these characters in this friend group, and when bad stuff happens to them, it's but then like as time goes on, it's just ever-changing emotions, and it's great. If I was gonna nitpick, I would say stuff like Robert De Niro did give a good performance, but it could have been a bit more nuanced. Same thing's true for Brad Pitt, but kind of in a different way. But lastly is when looking at the 4 boys, especially when they're kids, they're really just one character. There's not really distinguishing features between the 4 of them. They're just the boys. And when they're adults, they have different roles, but like they're essentially the same character still. But again, all those things are just nitpicks. The movie is great. I can easily look over all of those things because the emotion and the story are just so awesome that the other stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just good. It's just a really good story, told really well. So yeah, I would totally recommend this movie, though definitely trigger warning because some messed up stuff happens to the boys. But it's a definitely good film that's worth a watch. Next up is A Bronx Tale. This is a 1993 film and it's Robert De Niro's directorial debut. It is based off of a play that was inspired by the playwright's childhood in New York. I was trying to figure out exactly how much of it is like his childhood. I think it's kind of loosely frameworked as him. There's like 1 or 2 plot points that are based in real life and then it's just kind of expanded upon. There's one early on that's kind of a more shocking moment, so I won't say what that is, but that one's true. Yeah. And it's pretty good. It's about a boy who lives in the Bronx, and there's, you know, like some gangsters who live on the street, and maybe they're kind of cool, but his dad's a working class man who doesn't want any nonsense with the gangsters. So the movie's kind of about like these 2 father figures in this boy's life fighting for his influence. So like you got the gangster dad who takes a shine to this kid, kind of teach him street smarts, and then you got the Robert De Niro working class dad trying to teach him good book learning smarts, but also working class smarts, just lots of other things. And they do butt heads a bit. It's really interesting and fun. There's lots of nostalgia for the 60s, which I don't have, but that's fun. Where this movie isn't the best is it kind of relies on a lot of cliches. Definitely relies on nostalgia. Not all the performances were great, especially the main boy when he was older, because there's kind of like half of it's like when he's younger and half of it's when he's like a late teens, and late teens one wasn't the strongest. He's a bit wooden. His love interest is very wooden. I liked her, but it was rough. It was definitely still a good and interesting experience. I wonder though if it would have been better as the stage play or as the original one-man show. I think that would be really cool to see. As is though, I still liked it a good solid amount. It's a quiet leg, so it's basically a 4 out of 5. I would still totally recommend it. It's a good, interesting movie. It's just kind of a little cheesy at times, and that kind of hurts it a little bit. It's still worth a watch. And lastly is Cape Fear. This is a 1991 film starring Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte, and Jessica Lange. And the basic premise is kind of really just Friday the 13th, or any Jason story. Basically, there's this defense lawyer who 14 years ago had a case in which he was representing Robert De Niro, who was a rapist who beat this woman to within an inch of her life, and he kind of sort of threw the case intentionally, though I'll come back to that. And now Robert De Niro's sentence is up, and so he wants revenge, so he just stalks this family to no end in almost like a supernatural way, and he kills people along the way too. So it's really cheesy. I wasn't scared of anything. Like, I was never scared for anyone's life in the film. I kind of didn't give a shit if anyone died. They also write women really weird in this. I can't really even describe what's weird about the women in this movie. They're just strange. Robert De Niro gives a good performance, though it's also weird because it's like, he doesn't feel scary at all. He's just very charming and handsome, and like he's supposed to be a white trash piece of shit, but he just looks handsome and gorgeous, and it's like, no, he doesn't look like white trash. And like, I didn't feel bad for this family either. Like, the husband is a giant piece of shit. The wife is fine. She doesn't really have a character besides woman who loves dog. The daughter is so strange. She's played by Juliette Lewis. She gives a good performance, but it's also like, she was kind of understandable, but also really weird. The hardest thing for me to grasp with this movie is the motivation of the villain. I'm gonna spoil it because I don't give a shit. This movie's fine. I liked it, but I don't recommend it. There's really good special effects, and there are some fun, interesting moments. And I think there's interesting ideas within this movie, but they have issues. With the main one being the motivation for the villain, which is the lawyer tanked the case. And how he tanked the case was he had a PI investigate the woman that he raped, and he found that she was promiscuous. She had at least 3 partners in 1 month. And both Robert De Niro and Nick Nolte's characters are steadfastly convinced that had that been brought up in court, that he wouldn't have gone to jail for 14 years. Because you can't rape and brutally beat a woman who sleeps with multiple men. Where's the logic there? Like, a woman has sex more than once, so that means she's ineligible to be raped and beat within an inch of her life. I mean, I know the court systems are, but I believe they even make it clear too that his character, he has a history of doing this stuff. So it's not even like a he said, she said type of thing. It's more of a, hey, he did this thing again and it's really bad this time. Who gives a if she sleeps around? Because that has nothing to do with his actions. I don't know. And he's just so pissed. So I think if there was a better reason for Robert De Niro's character to fundamentally hate Nolte's character, then I could get behind it a little bit better. But like, the logic's just not there. And I do like the idea of a redneck white trash person, but they've spent 14 years being very learned and now know all lots of philosophical stuff and are quoting philosophers and whatnot. That's definitely an interesting idea of going, he was illiterate when he went in there and he came out just like a college professor basically. That's a fun idea, but I don't think they nailed it at all. So yeah, I like the movie because there is stuff in there to like, especially the end action set piece, but no, I don't recommend it. It's not good. It's fine. That doesn't mean it's good. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Sleepers sitting at number 31 in the really like section. And then after that is A Bronx Tale sitting at number 69 in the quite like section. And then bringing up the rear is Cape Fear sitting at number 113 in the liked section. A lot higher than I would have thought given what I just said. Anyway, and this is at a total of 174 old movies so far this year.